Thank you very much for keeping us company. We are heading straight to the perspective segment. Tonight, I am joined by the Housing Principal Secretary, Charles Hinga. We are going to be talking about the 500,000 houses that the President did promise Kenyans by the year 2022. A lot to discuss tonight, but before that, the country will see the rollout of that particular project this week, which will be funded by a kitty to be financed by public servants. President Uhuru Kenyatta is set to launch the program, a promise he made to the nation during the Jamhuri Day celebrations as his administration strives to provide cheap and affordable houses for all. Let us take a look at this and we'll be back with the interview.
Becoming a homeowner in Kenya remains a distant dream for most middle and low-income earners. The country, however, is facing a housing deficit of 2 million units, and the demand is growing annually with the increase in population. Under the Big Four agenda, the government has an ambitious plan to provide 500,000 decent, affordable housing units by 2022. The total cost of constructing this house is expected 2.3 trillion shillings, an amount CS James Macharia says is not readily available from the exchequer. Salaried workers will part with 1.5% of their pay to finance the new housing fund, which is meant to help the government realize its ambitious program. Trade unions, however, are worried about the management of the fund, claiming the contributors, who are the workers, have been left out of its administration. There's also uncertainty on refunds for employees who do not qualify for the affordable housing plan and those who will not have benefited by the time of retirement. According to the law, employers will contribute 1.5% of monthly basic salary from each employee and remit it to NHDF on or before 9th day of preceding month, and the maximum contribution capped at 5,000 Kenyan shillings.
And right now, I'm joined by the Principal Secretary, Charles Hinga. Thank you very much. You had quite an eventful meeting with the teachers a couple of days ago.
Right.
We are going to be getting into that. But the affordable housing project, very ambitious among the Big Four agenda by the President.
Right.
Before we get to the nitty-gritties, make that Kenyan who does not understand this, what is it all about?
What is affordable housing?
Yes.
First of all, let's start by what is guaranteed to you by the Constitution. It is a constitutional right of every Kenyan to have not just a house, but a decent house. Majority of our people don't live in decent houses. And number two, employers also have an obligation to provide housing closer to where people work. That is also part of the law. We also have a Housing Act that envisions the provision of housing across the country. Now that act was enacted in 1967. At the same time when a country we like to compare ourselves with, Singapore, also did the same thing. They also implemented a Housing Act with a housing fund. The difference between Kenya and Singapore is that they implemented and we did nothing. Now today, almost 90% of Singaporeans live in decent but public funded housing. Now, we are trying to play catch up. And of course, part of the catch up is we have to go through some painful steps and processes and making some tough decisions. But we can't keep on kicking the can down the road because history is not going to judge as well. When our kids, we now keep on saying that we had a chance to fix our housing issues under this presidency, and then we say we are postponing it again.
So make that Kenyan understand what this
so
is.
As in terms of the definition of affordable housing,
Yes.
In terms of what the definition is that for a household, you must not pay more than 30% of your disposable income for you to either own or rent a house, and plus all the other services. So pay for your electricity and for your water and basic services. You should not spend more than 30%. Today, if it's a mortgage, people are having to pay way over 50% of their incomes. And it's a few, because out of a country of 46 odd million people, we have just about 25,000 mortgages, right? That shows you the extent of the challenges that we have. Then you have got, in terms of most households, right? Even if they're getting house allowance, right? When we have a problem where people are, the developers are not building for the right kind of market. And that is why we find that we have our slums. The slums are just sprawling all over the place because we have a problem on the supply side.
Right.
Yeah.
So 1.5%, which would be levied on the gross income of every Kenyan. This has been an issue. The teachers have raised concerns. KOTU has also raised concerns.
KOTU hasn't raised a concern, by the way.
Atwoli is quoted saying that the government need to come out clearly and explain the structure and the management format of this particular fund. What is the government position with regards to this? You cannot say that you have not had Atwoli.
No, Atwoli doesn't have a problem with he doesn't have a problem with the fund. He doesn't have a problem with the contribution. He was part and parcel of the making of this fund. In fact, even the decision to move it from 0.5 to 1.5, yeah, was actually backed by them. Okay? Atwoli's issues, which we understand and we are addressing, are the issues of majority of Kenyans. During the public participation, majority of Kenyans said, we don't trust you. We have seen what you're doing with NHIF, we have seen what you're doing with NSSF, and all these other big scandals that are going on. So majority of Kenyans are saying that we are not satisfied, yeah, about the governance, and that is what the Secretary General of KOTU is also saying. And in the deal that we brokered during the negotiation, there was an undertaking from government side that they, as the workers' representatives, and the FKE, who are the employers' representative, will sit in the board of this fund so that they can make sure that they oversight. And we agree to that. We're just going through legislative processes of onboarding them. So I spoke to him on Friday. I've given him my word that there is no, the employees will not, the money is not going to be deducted before we sort out the advisory board for the fund. So that is KOTU's issue. NAT has very interesting issues, which are, which are some of them are really factual and painful issues. One, the first issue they raise is, look, we just bargained, we just did our CBA, and from the CBA we got 3%. How then do you turn around and then come and take 1.5%? That should have been then factored in the CBA and negotiations. And to that, we told them that unbeknown to so many Kenyans, is that before we even passed the finance bill, the president had signed into law in end of July something as part of the income tax amendments, a section that is dealing with what is called affordable housing relief. Now, what is affordable housing? Because this is the least talked about. But you actually understand how the affordable housing relief works, you'll actually realize just how deep this government has gone to make sure then this dream of affordable housing is not just a lip service. We have made very painful decisions as a government. So let me tell you what that means. And we sat down with the teachers and we're meeting with, again, their leadership tomorrow. If you take someone who is earning 60,000 shillings, so 15% is 9,000. So in terms of the relief that you're going to get. So if you take your pay slip today and you do your calculations, right, without the housing contribution and without the relief, you assuming, let's for discussion purposes, say that you pay 30% tax on that. That means it's 18,000, okay, when you're 60,000, so you're taking home what, 42, all right? Now, if I then levy the contribution, it means your income your take-home income will go down by another 900 shillings, which is 1.5%. But then you have been given a relief. The relief adds back to you, not just 9,000 shillings. So Kenyans who join by signing for this program, day one, your income goes up.
There are so many Kenyans who do not understand this particular calculation based on how the reception is. And we can also not deny the fact that there's a lot of concern. And when you tell a Kenyan that based on how NHIF, for example, is being managed, based on how other funds are also being managed. This is a way probably that some within the government are going to use to siphon public funds, because the government is yet to come out clearly. This, to those who understand, is a very good project, but to someone who is very skeptical, how do you convince him?
So you're dealing with two issues. So the first thing that I want every one of your viewers to note, if you're a worker, if you're an employee, the day because you have to sign,
yes,
you have to elect. So it's not an automatic relief. The day you sign for affordable housing relief and you show the receiver of revenue that you are actually setting aside money to contribute towards your house, because you can also save towards a deposit, you get up to 9,000 back every month, subject to, so up to 9,000 back. That is unprecedented, all right? That is unprecedented, because if you take 2.4 million employees, assuming those who pay taxes, how much is that per month if you were to convert that? That is just how deep we're going as government to make sure that we help, we assist our Kenyans to be able to afford a house. Now, why is the relief important? The relief is important because we know that majority of our workers are actually living on the edge. When I sat with NAT and I looked, they showed me pay slips, and they said, look, this is what the take home of a teacher is in this particular category. And you can see they are not very good looking numbers in terms of if you add something more, right, they actually go below the statutory requirements that you cannot take home less than a third of your gross remuneration. But that's why we are saying there's a lot of misinformation, or at least information that hasn't filtered, okay? That before we even ask you to contribute, we have given you back money. And what we're giving you is way more than it's 10 times what I'm taking away from you. That I hope the viewers understand, so that, and the workers understand, okay? And that is important, because then you start saving towards your house. Now, there is no doubt that we have governance issues with respect. I mean, it's not debatable. Right. We have seen it, we have read it in the papers about the governance issues. So the only thing that we can tell you is that this fund is going to be lean and mean. We are going to outsource all administrative functions to people who do this for a living. So we're not going to create another bloated institution that is inefficient, okay, and is surrounded by opaque things and people are stealing money, all right? That is not going to happen. So the money, we're putting it to people who manage money.
Okay, so how much is the government intending to raise every year? So
this fund, if you look at just minimum, those are only 2.4 million Kenyans who are on the payroll, out of almost 16 point something million Kenyans. So the minimum amount we are looking at is somewhere around 6 billion shillings a month.
6 billion shillings.
Yeah.
And then 500,000 houses by 2022.
Yeah.
That roughly how many per county?
So the way we've worked it is 2,000 units per county headquarters.
All right.
Per year. And
then this is not everyone will have access to this particular facility.
We have amended that. So that's the beauty of public participation.
All right.
Yeah. So the regulations which get published tomorrow have taken into consideration the cries of those who say, look, why my contribution if I'm not going to benefit? So you'll be excited to know that we took all those things into consideration and we looked for mechanisms of ensuring that everybody will benefit.
So what are these mechanisms?
Which mechanism?
The ones that you are saying that the government has put in place to ensure that everyone benefits from this particular.
So we have two institutions. We have the Housing Fund,
yes,
and we have the Kenya Mortgage Refinance Company. Now, let me again tell you about some of the positives that people are not talking about. In the history of this country, you have never gotten a mortgage at 7% fixed interest rate. How can that be a bad thing? Okay? That means, all right, if you get a 3 million house and you earn 100,000, you are able to pay almost 24,000 shillings over 25 years. That is the same amount of money that you're paying, yeah, for a house with no toilet and water. Okay? You get for a house that is decent. It has gas reticulation. It has fiber. Foolproofed houses. Now, if you're in the social housing, meaning that you are in the slums, okay, we will also build houses for you. The good thing, though, is I finance you at 3% over 25 years. So what does that translate to? It translates to the same amount of money you're paying for a shack, which is 2,500 for a one-roomed house, 4,500 for a two-roomed house, 6,500 for a three-roomed house. It's the same amount of money that you're going to pay, but for a decent house that you own. Now, this is not a myth. This is not storytelling. Today, as we speak, we have built in Kibera, Soweto A, houses that are one-roomed, two-roomed, and three-roomed. And we have financed them at 3% for 25 years. The challenge that we had is that we are using the taxpayers' money, the normal revenues that we collect, to build the houses. So it's taken us 7 years to build. It's taken us very long to build only 822 units.
Okay. And then there are those who are concerned that probably they work for organizations or companies that have already factored in houses. So how do you...
so there are many ways in which you're going to benefit. A, you can elect to bequeath your contribution to your son or your daughter. Okay? If you say, for example, I have a house. Okay? Now, think about it. Can you imagine if your father bequeathed to you that, you know, an instrument that by the time you finish university, you come out with a degree and a house. So when you're starting up looking for jobs, the one thing that you don't have to worry about is a house. So you can bequeath it to your son or to your daughter. You can bequeath it to your helper, all right? You know, they do a great job looking after our kids. Now, the other thing that is very important is that if you come to a point where you say, I am not interested, I don't want to bequeath it, okay? We're saying we need that money coming into the fund because that is the money that is going to help bring the investors. We are crowding in investment so that we build the houses. It's not government building the houses.
Okay.
That means that in the earlier of between 15 years and retirement, you can get back your money with interest.
All right. And
so no one loses anything, by the way.
Okay, so fair enough. Let's say someone has 5 years to work and you are asked by the government to contribute.
Yeah.
And you happen to get a house. What happens after?
So that's what I'm saying. If you say you've got 5 years left, so for you it's a tax-deductible saving. It is tax-deductible saving, all right? So after 5 years, okay, you get back your money, all right, okay? Or you could use that, you can borrow money to improve your house. You could even say, I will continue contributing because in retirement, yeah, that is when I need a house as an investment. So I can have another house that I can rent out and get more income.
All right.
So it's a win-win for everybody. But the most important thing is that for majority of Kenyans who have no hope of ever owning a house, and they are Kenyans too, and they have dreams and they have hopes, right? And we cannot kick the can and say we are not our brother's keeper. We have an obligation one to another as a country. We can't, if you go to Mathare, you go to Kibera, you go to Mudhurwa, and you see how people live, it's very sad that we could actually be debating whether Kenyans need houses.
All right. I know so many would beg to differ, but finally, NAT, which has so many members across the country, they have their reservations, and I know that there's a meeting schedule.
Yes, and we've been engaging with them since that day, and we are still engaging with them. They've given us a written memorandum of all the issues. We've answered each one of them. Yeah, so we expect to have a very good meeting tomorrow.
So do you expect these differences to be resolved tomorrow?
Absolutely. There are no differences. How can a worker, complain, right? How can a worker complain when by just the mere fact that you register for affordable housing, you get 9,000 shillings back? And then I ask you to contribute only 9. I'm giving you 9,000, and then I ask you just put 900 aside.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. The launch is on Thursday.
The launch is on Thursday.
Okay.
So it is a launch. It's going to be a colorful day. It is a historical day, and you know, the one thing that we do believe as a country, that if we fix this housing, not only are we dignifying our people, but think about what else we're going to do. Housing is labor intensive. Right now, we have so many youths that don't have work and jobs. You watch on Thursday so that you realize that what the president said on Tuesday, on Jamhuri Day, was not just PR exercise. We talked about we have ring-fenced doors and windows that are going to be provided by Juakali. For this breaking, the groundbreaking we're doing, there are real people. There are real Juakali, people that will be there to show you that they are the ones who are going to make the doors.
Okay.
So think about the number of jobs you're going to create. They say for every one house you do, you're going to create 3 new jobs. They say for every $1 that we invest, we are creating 3 more new dollars. And you know, construction is cross-cutting. Logistics, every other aspect of the economy is going to be affected.
Okay.
So it has to be a good thing.
I'm sorry we're pressed for time, but of course we're waiting for that launch on Thursday.
Please.
Thank you very much, Charles.
You're most welcome.
All right.
Thank you.
We are taking a short break. Don't go too far. Business news is coming up next.